had written this thing that I wanted to like. I was like, oh, I should pitch it and try to get a thing, and instead I just wrote the check and shot it. Yeah.
That's got to be pretty sick when you can do shit like that.
It was pretty cool. I mean, it was cool. It was not cool to get that sick. I got fucking sick. But yeah, if you like, so we're gonna actually go make a series of it now.
I was gonna say,
yeah,
you're probably at the point where that's gonna go to series.
Yeah, we're gonna go to series.
Anything you do is gonna work.
Yeah, well, I don't know,
well,
but I mean,
but like the executives or whoever you need to convince are gonna go.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do
yeah,
it, right?
like they're taking a chance, I guess. But but this is like, yeah, I mean, I literally was like. I go to shoot this thing. We shot it in the LA area. So some of it was like in Simi Valley, some of it was in LA, some was in Long Beach. And then I have to leave the set while it's still shooting because I have a gig in Bakersfield. And when I get to the airport, they're like, something wrong with the plane. And I was like, and I'm sick. And I'm like, and I have 2 shows in Bakersfield. And I'm coming from the set and I was like, how do I get to Bakersfield? And they're like, we can take a helicopter. And I was like, all right. So we get in the helicopter, and because of like the altitude, adjustment and I'm congested, one of my ears just goes, and I just can't hear. And I'm like, and so I get to the venue and I'm like, what's up, man? Like I'm talking to people and they're like, why are you talking so loud? And I was like, I can't hear. I can't hear.
Oh my God.
And it was so, my hearing was so gone that I lost my ability. I forgot the rhythm to pause. So I was like, da 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 da. I just kept talking, and people were like, "You need to slow down," man. Because
Segura's got a coke problem.
Yeah, I was like,
finish a set in 20 minutes.
I couldn't like figure out where to like, you know what I mean? Like I couldn't hear. I couldn't hear applause, laughter. I couldn't hear anything happening. Like
That's
it was just,
crazy.
Yeah.
Because that's weird when something happens to one thing and you realize like you would never think like that.
Without
like
that,
your understanding of conversation or performance really is that based on hearing. He's like, I'm doing the talking. Everyone shut the fuck up.
Yeah, no.
But like you need
That's
every
like
sense
the comedian's version of like I played with a fucking
Yeah.
stinger in my neck.
Playing sick or doing like stand up, especially with like head cold stuff. There's a weird thing that happens when you have stomach stuff, which is awful. I think the worst, where like your body will like
It knows to pause.
Yeah, it, like, pauses.
I've kind of felt that before too.
and it also like you get through the head stuff, but the head stuff as soon as you get off is so much worse.
Yeah.
Like you're then it just kind of like the
drains.
adrenaline drops.
Again, the very tiny little shows we do, I get off stage and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm gassed. I can't imagine doing.
Yeah, gas. People think
know?
it's they're like, you must be energized.
No,
I'm like, not
I
energized.
just put it all out there.
Yeah.
You know?
No, you're done. You're
That-
done. Yeah.
I
can't
remember
even
thinking that.
imagine
Like,
what
I think it was actually Kim Kardashian had a post where it was like, "This is what rock star life actually is," and it was like Kanye asleep on the couch. This is back when they were married or whatever.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Get the fuck out of here!"
Yeah.
And then
sense.
again, we'll do like a 300-person show, and I'm like, "No one talked to me for 24 hours." I'm fucking tired.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was it a steady enough like rise for you, or like did you jump quick to like a big theater and a big?
No, I had the best rise.
Yeah.
I had the way you want to do it.
because it was like
Slow and steady.
Yeah.
Clubs to adding shows in a club to rock club to small theater to mid-sized theater to large theater, and then I did a dozen arenas, a few amphitheaters. So, but I mean,
Yeah.
everything I just described is
whole
10
career.
years.
Yeah.
10 years of selling tickets.
Right.
And it was literally every tour was a bump, like
Yeah.
the bump to the next one,
which is perfect.
it's the way to do it.
I can't even imagine some of the guys now when you go rocket speed. Like, how
some
do
of
you
the-
know?
You
how to-
don't?
you don't. I mean, you're going from like I'm like begging to get up on stage to like I can do an arena. How the fuck could you do that?
You don't want to do that.
Yeah.
You don't. And honestly, even if you're,
But you can't say no, right?
well, you can.
If
You
you can,
can if
would
you're
you?
like. I think the check. You go like, wait a minute, but you're much better off. Here's the thing: you don't realize it's a real. It's an adaptation you have to do.
Yeah.
To go. I mean, there's there's guys that go high school to MBA.
Yeah, right.
But like that 1 year in college helps,
A lot.
right? And
But I would be so afraid, just like, you probably can rest assured, like, I will still get to arenas if people like me, but I don't know.
yes,
What if-
because here's the
what if
thing:
the market
you don't
changes? What if
plan.
the-
I remember we were talking about arenas like Bert and I were like 10 years ago, like, and then I go, yeah, but there's no like path. You don't go,
Yeah.
let's follow this path to arenas. What you do is you just do like what you do.
You hope
And
it gets
then,
there.
yeah, you just kind of
Yeah.
deal with whatever the benefits of, the upside of that. Like, so doing stand up, you just kind of go, okay, like here's my stand up, right? And then the response is the response. But the first time you do a theater, it's definitely a change than a club.
Right.
And honestly, a big theater is almost like a half arena.
Yeah.
Like a 5,000 seater, that's basically half an arena.
Right.
That's way different than a 1,500 seater. I mean, way different.
Yeah.
And then you get to arenas, and it's like, it's a whole different thing.
I would have thought like a show's a show, whatever. And I saw a show at the Beacon fairly recently that had some comics on it who are typically club guys and had some comics on it who are typically theater guys. And it was, for the first time ever to me, like so jarringly different. It was like, oh, like so-and-so is talking to the not talking to the balcony, but projecting to the balcony and looking up here and engaging.
You see it.
Whereas everyone else is kind of like just working the front row right there at a club. And it was like, oh, yeah, this is pretty clear who regularly does theaters and who
1,000%.
clubs.
When I did, the first time I did, do you remember the Oddball?
No.
Oddball Festival was, I think, Live Nation's like comedy festival.
Okay.
It was massive for a run. I think they stopped doing it. It's like kind of like what Bert's kind of doing now.
Yeah.
Is what Oddball was.
Okay.
Right. And they did amphitheaters, like big fucking amphitheaters, and they would have a bunch of comics and then like your headlining comics. Like so one year it was Louis. One year it was Schumer. One year it was Sebastian. Like so they always had like a. But like all the comics on it were like pretty known, So it was like 2015 or 16. I'm doing it like a dozen, 15 of them or something, like a bunch of them. And there's comics that come and go. So I'm like, when I'm doing enough shows where I kind of am like, I'm on a lot of the shows and I'm seeing people come to do a couple and then leave and then another person comes. And it became a thing. Like when I did my first one, Jeff Ross, I was like, yeah, what's this going to be like? He's like, take your time, like slow down. And I don't even remember if he's the one that told me, but I learned that like you stick to do your material, right? Because like, you go to like a club, it's like, what's up, man?
Yeah.
This shit. And if you have that kind of energy. But I'd see people show up,
try to do that.
and they try to be like loose, like da da da, and you would see them flounder. I mean, sweat.
Well, think
right?
if you're 5,000 people away, you're top row.
20,000.
Yeah, right.
There's
right.
20,000 people at some of these
I don't
shows.
give a fuck about the guy in the
and some of them like you could see them come off, and they're like. Right, and you're like, and you go like, yeah, but you're doing. Your like cellar set.
Yeah, that's not.
Like you're kind of like working there. I go, you're not working this room.
Right.
You go out there and just perform your 20 best minutes.
Yeah.
Like actually
Don't talk
put
to
on
anybody.
a show. Like
Yeah.
do the show. And as soon as people would do that, some people would show up and they just knew. They just do that.
Fine.
Murder. They would murder because the crowd wants to have a good time.
Yeah.
But the people who were just kind of like try to like,
this is not a big deal. This is not different.
There's a little off the cuff thing over here. Like it just wouldn't work. It wouldn't work.
But so you really think if you went viral on the internet and went from like a club to the demand was like arena level, would you think you would say no?
Well, it's such a like it's a hypothetical where you go, I want to, but I always did like. I still think I have like calculated risk stuff in me, right?
Yeah.
So I think I would also work with people who would be like, let's get you some theaters in there.
Yeah.
Before you do
right.
those.
Yeah. I guess you don't have to say no. You don't have to do one or the other entirely.
I think the way that like honestly the way that would work for me is they'd be like, hey, you have these theaters off these arena offers, and I'd be like, great, say yes in like 12 months from now.
Yeah.
Like put them then.
Right.
And let me
build my
work
way
this.
up.
Yeah.
I mean, do you know Matt Rife?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he was doing, normal shit, and then he sells out like a theater like 13 times.
Yeah, we had
in
this
a year.
conversation.
It's like
him and I talked about
Yeah.
this, and he was smart. He had the awareness to do what we're talking about,
Okay.
which is they were like, do the arenas. And he was like, let me like
Learn how
do
to
a
go
bunch
to
of
the-
theaters.
Yeah, smart.
And it's very smart. I mean, that's absolutely like brilliant of him to intuitively go, this is a big change from the club to this theater. Let me do them before there's 15,000 people.
Because
at the
then
venue.
you really can't put that toothpaste back in the tube. You know what I mean?
You can't. And
You might
here's
get
the
a fat
thing that
check, but if you
that
bomb
that size between club and arena is going to get him. First of all, it's going to be a change, and he's going to get used to it. And that's where the set will get so tight for large audiences.
Right.
And then once it's tight and you put it in the arena, you're golden.
Yeah.